Hello, everyone, and welcome to And Beyond, our monthly development update and live Q&A session with the community. I'm Adam from the D&D Beyond team. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about why we're here. As we have each time we've had this update, I want to make sure everyone understands what we're trying to accomplish here. A big part of that is at the bottom of what you're looking at on the screen there. We want questions. We have gathered many questions from our forums, but we also want you to ask questions in chat. So by all means, start lighting that up now, and we have someone curating that for me, helping me get through that. We will answer those toward the end of our session today, but we're also going to talk about where we are, what we have developed of late, and what has been released. We'll look at some data. We have some nice data coming in now from Xanathar's Guide to Everything that has been really exciting for us to see and see what everyone is playing with all these new character options, so we'll get into that. And then we'll also talk about what is happening in the short-term future. We've got some exciting things in store, and even though some of them are kind of under the hood right now, I want everyone to understand exactly what we are working on and that the payoff is going to be huge for them. All right, another thing that we are going to try out today. One of my favorite shows as a kid did this all the time with a word of the day. And so we are actually going to try this out during the stream today. Now, after we leave this little area here, after I say the word ranger, everyone in the chat, if I say it and no one in chat notices it, then we're going to keep going on. We're not going to give away a legendary bundle. But if I say ranger, again, after we leave this area, then be sure to let us know in chat, and I have someone paying attention to that. Who knows? I may slip up. Who knows? Every question might have something to do with a ranger, and I might have to say that word 100 times. Now, I hope that I have a little more self-control than that, but we're going to see how this goes. So if you hear the word ranger, be sure to let us know in chat, starting right now. All right, let's go into where we are. What has happened since our last update? Of course, the last time that we came together was in November. We took time off for the holidays. The team got to take some great time off, recharge the batteries. Very happy about that. But we are, completely raging like a Path of the Ancestors barbarian coming into 2018. Some of the things that we have done from December through right now, as of today, just before the stream for the last item, we have implemented monster stat blocks changes to the stat blocks that we used to have in place. We had some initial designs that we received a lot of feedback from the community that said, hey, we are used to these official formats for stat blocks. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so we've been listening to that feedback. It's been one of the most requested things. And you can see now, if you go out and look at a monster in the monster listings or elsewhere, you should see that it is using the official format for consistency. And then we also implemented quite a few print updates that will make the quality of life much better when you go to print out monsters. This was a use case we weren't quite anticipating, but we have heard from the community that many of you will search for a monster, print many of those out, and have those ready and available where you can draw and scribble on them, keep up with hit points and so on as you're playing your games. And so we want to try to support the community with how the game's being played, and we've made these changes to the monster stat blocks. The mobile alpha has been going since the middle of December, and we have been really excited with the amount of feedback that we've gotten. We've got thousands of people that are using this in the alpha now. We're really excited to hear that the overall reaction to the mobile alpha is positive, that the direction that we're taking and what we're trying to bite off first for what the mobile app is going to be is a good direction to be taking. You can grab your D&D content and carry it with you everywhere. You can look at that in an e-reader format, similar to a Kindle format, where you can see the pretty book format. You can change to night mode. I hear people really enjoy this night mode thing. So all of that is in the alpha currently. Some of the feedback that we have received that I wanted to let everyone in the alpha know that we are taking action with, as well as everyone that is going to reap the benefits when we officially go to the app stores for Google and Apple, is that we are going to make major bookmark improvements. We were talking about this yesterday as a team. We've got several things already rolling on that. Very excited about that. You'll be able to get to the table of contents much quicker and easier than you can currently in the alpha, and we will continue to make some search improvements. So when this is released to everyone in the community, it should really be a phenomenal resource for being able to carry those books on the go. If you're sitting in the line for the grocery store and you just have to know what the Warlock ability and class feature that they get at 6th level is, you should be able to look that up very easily right there in the mobile app. And of course, for everyone to remember, the mobile app is offline compatible. It is actually the core and central strategy for what we're going to do to provide offline functionality. So that is also in place, and we're excited about that. We'll talk a little bit more about next steps with mobile as we go into the what's next part of our talk today. And finally, released today, Homebrew races are available for the community. I encourage you to go and make whatever it is that you've been waiting to make. We've been hearing a lot of feedback that Homebrew races have been the most requested part of the Homebrew system, even over subclasses. So races are available today. We are going to be looking at that over the next few days, definitely gauging feedback, but it's going to work very similarly to all the rest of the Homebrew system. You will be able to create an entire base race and determine whether that race should have sub-races or not. You will be able to create a sub-race for an existing race. So you could create an Arctic Dwarf, for example, by choosing sub-race and then going in and selecting Dwarf, and you can tie that to that. So when you go to the character builder, you can have your custom Homebrew race appear right there with the rest of the Dwarves. And then finally, you can create variants. So we got a lot of questions, even in our team as we started designing this. What is the difference between a sub-race and a variant? And so I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I can see that there could be some confusion surrounding this. But ultimately, some races in the player's handbook or Volos or wherever you're seeing those races, they are not going to have sub-races of any sort. So a Dragonborn is balanced around the concept that it does not have sub-races. If you all of a sudden took a sub-race and tried to add that to a Dragonborn, it's going to create some balance problems. And so you have races like that that don't have sub-races. You have races that are balanced around having sub-races like dwarves and elves. And so you could be a base elf, and really the game doesn't let you be just a base elf. You have to be a drow or a high elf or a wood elf or so on in order for the race to be balanced against the others. But you do have the concept of a variant for some races, the most popular of which is naturally the variant human. And so in that case, the human race, not the human race in our world, but the human race in Dungeons & Dragons, is actually a full race without subclasses. And so the variant human is replacing base racial traits with other traits. And so that's what makes a variant. So you have some other variant types across some of the other races as well. Variant half-elves, where you have a portion of one of the elf sub-races, that racial trait replacing one of the half-elves racial traits there. And then you have variant tieflings and so on. So you could actually go in and create a variant Dragonborn, for instance. So a Dragonborn normally does not have sub-races, but you could go in and create a variant on a Dragonborn where you are choosing racial traits to replace for that variant. So it's really exciting. It's a lot of customization capability. We're really, really happy to unveil that today. By all means, even you don't even have to watch me. Just go make races in the system. We're really excited to see what people are able to come up with. Some other exciting things that have happened of late. We have finally been able to incorporate Unearthed Arcana playtest content in D&D Beyond. We are incredibly excited about this. This has consistently been the #1 requested bit of functionality and content request that we've had since the launch of D&D Beyond. And so as of Monday, we were able to release this month's Unearthed Arcana, which was the 3 new subclasses, the Druid, Circle of Spores, really, really creepy Circle of Spores Druid going on out there. Try that out, playtest that. The Brute Fighter that has a lot of discussion already going on in the community. I'm pretty excited about that one as well. I think it does quite a few things for 2-weapon fighters that I'm pretty excited about. So we'll see how that one evolves. And then the Wizard School of Invention that we had a video that we also released that Todd Kenrick talked to Jeremy Crawford about how these subclasses evolved. And the School of Invention was an offshoot and kind of an evolution of what happened with Lore Mastery as a subclass. So all of these are out there for you to use with your characters now and to play test those. And we're keeping an eye on the survey that will be released later this month from the Wizards team. And we will share that through our site. And obviously you can get to that from dnd.com as well. But in that survey, that is your chance to provide feedback that can shape the future of the game. So we really encourage you to do that, try these things out, and help out there. The way that UA playtest content will work going forward on D&D Beyond, just where everyone is on the same page, is that we target releasing that new content 1 week after the article goes live on the Wizards of the Coast website. And that's for a variety of reasons, and I'll share a few right now. One of the things it does for us is it allows for any really early initial changes to be updated in that following week before we start putting this in front of people to let them start using in the tool set. So for instance, even this week we had some typos that we corrected. In future weeks we could get additional changes and feedback from Wizards of the Coast that we are able to catch and be able to provide for the community at that week later time. Another reason is it gives us a chance to really emphasize that, hey, this playtest content exists and you ought to go try it because we want your help to improve the game. So those are some of the primary reasons behind that, but that is the schedule. The last reason that I'll provide is it does bring a little bit of sanity to our team because this playtest content oftentimes is worked on until the last hour before it's released. And so it allows us, we can't get it ahead of time always, and so it allows us to have that week to be able to make sure that we incorporate and integrate it into D&D Beyond the way that it should be. So definitely keep an eye on that. Some additional information about the playtest content is we will not incorporate everything that is released as Unearthed Arcana. So for instance, I'm going to give a great example here. Mr. Mike Merles shared his thoughts on a Greyhawk initiative system that came out in a UA article last year. That is something that, since it doesn't directly touch actual mechanical elements for your characters in D&D Beyond, there's not a lot of reason or even ways for us to support that. But when we have these elements like subclasses, feats, races, and so on that make sense to be integrated and to allow the community to playtest in DDB, we are going to integrate that going forward. I do want to share a disclaimer, however, on Unearthed Arcana content. One of the things that we are really concerned about, as is Wizards of the Coast, is making sure that design elements that are orphaned, abandoned for whatever reason, that they don't stay around in the wild and confuse especially new players. So we are going to incorporate this content, and then as that playtest period closes, that content will be, in some cases, superseded by the actual published version of whatever that mechanic is. And in other cases, if it is scrapped in whatever way, or it is shelved to possibly be reworked at a later time, we will also remove those elements again to make sure that we're maintaining the design integrity that the designers intend for the game to have. So there is more information about how all of that will work on our forums. There's some good discussion going on there. If you have questions, by all means ask those as well. But we're really excited to start being able to provide this Unearthed Arcana content, and I look forward to what happens with it next. Is it Thursday yet? I stayed up far too late last night watching the conclusion of Critical Role's second session. We have entered a long-term partnership with Critical Role that we're terribly excited about. Matt and the entire cast is incredible to work with. We have, as part of this, we are the official tool set for Critical Role, but then also we are integrating some content with Critical Role, and we're trying to work on integrating more of that. But the Blood Hunter was released, and Matt was gracious enough to release this for free to everyone. And you can go on D&D Beyond right now and create a Blood Hunter using the class that Matt previously has released. We're really excited about this. Many of you were very excited about this as well. Blood Hunter is already kind of fighting to take over the number of characters created of some of the classes that are lower on the list. And so many thousands of Blood Hunters have already been created. We encourage you to do that. It is a new class for us. There is a lot of complexity to this class, which is one of the compelling things about it. We definitely ask for your feedback if you encounter issues or problems with it. We're going to be attentive to that, and we're going to fix those as those come along. But we're excited to do that, and we look forward to sharing more of this content in the future. Another quick note about both Unearthed Arcana and Critical Role content as part of this partnership. One of the issues that this has really exposed for us, and we knew that this would be an issue, is the way that someone is able to manage the sources that are available to yourself on your account, to the players in your campaign, or even at a character level. And so some of the big next steps that we will be working on as this kind of content continues to be integrated into DDB is a way for users to be able to select which sources they want to see in the builder and the tool set itself throughout the rest of the site. So all of that is something that we have planned, and we'll be working on that in the coming months as well. All right, data update. This one's pretty exciting. I think part of this was very, very surprising for me. It has now been what? So we've got, let's see, November, December. We're going on 2.5 months, I guess, of people creating characters using Xanathar's Guide to Everything content. One thing that I would like to say here, we have gotten into a few discussions on the internet, which are difficult discussions to have sometimes, about the veracity of some of the data that is taking place in D&D Beyond. I think I've shared before that when we have shared numbers about the class usage and playing those classes, and even some of the core Player's Handbook subclasses, how their popularity aligns, even some of the spells, we have really done our best to make sure that we're looking at normalized data where we don't have situations where the free options just carry away from any of the paid unlocked options. And so some of the ways we've done that in the past is make sure that we're only looking at the unlocked content users to be able to make those determinations. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes before we share this data. I wanted to just state before we get into looking at what's going on with Xanathar's is due to the nature of these subclasses, only those subclasses that are in Xanathar's and are paid to be unlocked are going to be represented by this data. So I think this is actually a very good, solid look at least what people are creating and using. So we are also looking at this in the way of we're defining use by they are doing something with the character outside of that initial creation. It can be updating hit points. It can be other things. So we are trying to give a decent picture of the relative popularity of some of these options. So let's take a look. Apparently, a lot of people really enjoy the Hexblade. The Hexblade is by factors the largest portion of what people are creating in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. That one doesn't surprise me terribly so, but possibly the amount of them has surprised me. We also see that the Divine Soul is a very popular option for sorcerers. I think that there's just a great deal of flexibility with that. I think a certain Trash Witch actually plays that Divine Soul. And then we have the Celestial, another Warlock patron that is very, very strong there. And then finally, we have another Sorcerer option. So again, this data can be interpreted in many, many ways, but I think one of the things that we could glean from this information is that people were really hungry for some other options for both the Warlock and the Sorcerer classes. So that's really, really exciting. And then we've got the Gloomstalker for the Ranger. That is... Oh, we've got a word of the day! Word of the day! Word of the day! Ranger, word of the day. All right. We are going to give away a legendary bundle. Here we go. All right. Let me make sure. Are we good to go? All right. The man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, tells me we are good to go. All right. So you need to type something in chat to be eligible for this giveaway. So type anything. Tell me how good I look on this stream. Tell me that you love what I've done with my hair. Whatever it is that you need to type in there, get that going, and we are going to give this away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the winner is MJS October. I know that guy. Congratulations, you have won a legendary bundle, and keep in mind that we will take down your name as it appears in chat. We will contact you following the stream, and we will get information from you. If you happen to already own a legendary bundle, this is something that if you have someone in mind that you'd like to gift it to, that is something that we can work out after the stream as well. So congratulations, October. All right. Man, I don't even think that was a planned use of the word for the day. So I've got to be more careful. All right. We're just going to give these things away like candy. Arcane Archer, Way of the Kensei, very, very popular options. You can see on the left side of the chart here that some of the other options really are very similar in popularity as we get to that side of the chart. But I think this is a really interesting look at perhaps people that, some of the barbarian subclasses are being created less. That could be for a variety of factors. Possibly the existing options are really, really strong, and it's hard to choose any of the new ones. Again, very fascinating look at what people are creating on D&D Beyond with the Xanathar's Guide subclasses. All right, now let's talk about where we are going, the short-term roadmap. So we are going to launch a mobile app with full offline capability. That is a big deal for us that we've been working on for some time. We're terribly excited about it. I don't have a date to share quite yet, but you will probably get a date fairly soon. So take that as you will. The mobile app will be in people's hands before too long, soon TM. Very excited about it. The compendium content itself is, again, I find myself using this all the time. Even when I'm in a meeting and I'm bored about whatever's going on around me, I am reading about D&D using this app. So it's very exciting to get that into folks' hands. Like I said, pretty soon. You almost got me to slip up there, but I didn't. I stayed strong. All right. Homebrew subclasses. This is another big piece of the homebrew system, And I am happy to share that this is the final major piece of that system that needs to be placed into that puzzle. So we will allow you to create custom subclasses. This means that you will be able to, if you really, really, really loved that lore master and you're not wanting to move into the School of Invention, you could recreate the lore master for your own private use using the Homebrew system. As we got under the hood with this, we realized that Homebrew subclasses, when we initially thought about this and we were initially planning, we thought subclasses would be far more difficult than any of the other elements. And as we really have dug in, it looks like subclasses might actually be a little bit easier than what we have had to go through for races. And so the good news is there, especially since we don't have a holiday break in the middle of it, subclasses are on their way fairly soon. Again, no dates here today, but you will be able to create these options before too long, and then that will kind of complete our first pass on our Homebrew system, and then we will continue to monitor feedback. We've already collected feedback from many of you up to this point, and we will be looking for opportunities after that to start really digging into the system and making it more user-friendly and making it something that is going to be valuable for the tool set over a long period of time. When we initially started with our Homebrew system, we essentially gave everyone in the community the same tools that we use. If I am entering a new magic item from the next product that Wizards of the Coast is going to release, I actually use the exact same interface that you would use to input your own Homebrew magic item. So we're giving you the tools that our development team uses to input this content. And finally, you will be able to do that for subclasses. So the way that will work is you will be able, each subclass, if you look in the base class table, you see that it designates that a martial archetype feature is granted at this level, 14th level, or whatever level. So you will be able to, at those levels in the subclass, go in and add new class features to those levels. You can create a brawler. I keep hoping for like a strength-based fighter, unarmed fighter. So I want to see someone create that as a martial archetype or a path for the barbarian. I'm indifferent as to which direction we want to go. And yes, I'm sure that chat's probably lighting up with it. I'm very aware of the pugilist out there. Shout out for that. I love that class as well. We'll see what we can start doing about some Homebrew base classes going forward. As I've shared in the past, those are difficult to pull off. Getting the Blood Hunter integrated, especially with the complexity that Matt has brought to that class, is something that is not something to sneeze at for us as a development team. And so in order to grant users that ability, it's far too much flexibility, because you can decide that you just don't want this person casting spells. You want them using runes, for instance. This is something that's happened in the history of the game. And those systems, not knowing what they are and what is in the minds of everyone in the community, are things that are difficult for us to program around. But we will continue to monitor what those popular options are and see what we can do to incorporate them into the tool set over time. Very excited about Homebrew subclasses. And finally, I would like to talk about the character sheet revamp. We've been talking about this for some time, and I mainly, at this point, want everyone to know that we are working on this. There is not a lot that we can show yet for this, but we are working on this. The team has been doing a great deal of work that is very behind the scenes, under the hood, rearranging the way that spell casting systems work in the tool set to even allow you for Homebrew subclasses. You could have a barbarian that you add the ability to cast divine spells to. That is something you'll be able to do, and all of that is due to some of the refactoring that the team has been doing in preparation for the character sheet revamp. So all of that activity, tons and tons of things that would not sound very exciting to the community yet, But when we are able to do that in the coming months and share this revamped character sheet, it really is going to pay off. It's going to be something to behold. One of the key things that we're doing there is you will be able to have read-only characters. So I can't wait to see how many page views we get for Evelyn's character on Dice Camera Action, or Ford, Travis's character, this very popular Hexblade. All of those things, the community will be able to see those character sheets if those users share them with the community. You'll be able to even create copies of those characters from that. We will be able to transfer characters at that point in time. So all of this under the hood effort that's going on right now is making sure that my character sheet and the character that I have, if I shared that out to the community, making sure that people can't come in and change my things, and making sure all the permissions are properly set up. So this is all stuff that is going to really set us up to do some very interesting things in the future. The updated look and feel, I'm seeing more and more of that each day. The ability to change theme colors. This is all going to be something truly special, and I'm going to stop talking about it right now because I know it's not very fair without me showing what that stuff is yet. So I hope that in the next dev stream we'll have a little bit more that I can share. Really looking forward to this being available in the community. One of the last things that I want to talk about, we saw that there was a question from the forums on this as well, is what is going on with short descriptions and how are those going to work in the character sheet. So in both the digital character sheet and the PDF export, we're going to have the ability to display, we call them snippets. So you're going to be able to display these snippets, and even in your Homebrew subclasses and spells, you'll be able to include these snippets. And in those snippets, we're doing some really interesting things there as well, where right now I can see a lot of times when someone writes something down on a character sheet, they will summarize it by saying, okay, I'm an Aasimar, I'm a fallen Aasimar, I have an ability that I can use once per, I think, short rest, maybe, if I'm remembering right, short rest that allows me for 1 minute to add my character level to damage rolls. So a lot of times when people are using pen and paper, they'll write down plus character level damage, on one attack per turn, or whatever they would write there. And in our snippet system, we're actually going to have some syntax that, again, you can use in your Homebrew as well, but we'll have some syntax that will calculate character level for you. It will calculate half character level. You'll be able to multiply character level by 2, so you can actually use syntax in those snippets to show an always up-to-date figure and value in the character sheet. So on the electronic sheet and on the PDF, if you print that out, you would be able to see that if you are 10th level as that Aasimar, that it does an additional 10 points of radiant damage per, for one attack per turn. So all of that's really, really exciting, and it's going to help new players and old alike be able to see this information very, very quickly. Another thing that we are working on, as we've brought on more people to the staff to be able to help with some content, is we are going ahead and putting page number references into each of these, starting with class features, but we'll move to the other elements. So all of that is also going to be present on the sheet. So if you are using the character creator to print out the PDF, I can't wait until you guys see the new PDF, but if you're using that to print it out and you want to use the physical books, you'll be able to find those elements very, very easily and quickly. So really excited about that. There is going to be more to talk about on that soon. All right, Q&A time. How am I doing on time? Man, I am like only 3 minutes behind my target. So we are going to go ahead and get started with questions. And as always, we will start with some questions from the forums. So we get asked this every time. What is the ETA for whatever feature? You can fill in the blank there. As I've shared before, in development, I really, really wish that I had clairvoyance spells and divination, and that I could roll a die and, with some kind of high likelihood, be able to understand exactly when some of this stuff's going to release, but we just don't have that ability. What I can tell you is what we're working on and what the priority behind that is. And so we've talked about that a little bit. I can tell you that the things that are on that short-term roadmap are things that we're talking about within about a quarter as opposed to a year or 2 quarters or 3 quarters. So take that for what you will. And even saying that, those are just targets, and we never know what can happen. But it's very difficult for us to give dates. You'll find this with most people that are actually developing software. But you will be the first part of the community that will know exactly when we have dates for any of this. We will definitely get this out as soon as we're able, because we're terribly excited about it too. Got a question about additional Critical Role content. So that's a great question. I touched on that before. We definitely have plans for that. I'm not exactly sure how all those plans will work out, but we do plan to do that, and we want to do that and offer that for the community. Other third-party products. These are a little more difficult than I wish they were to incorporate because there are all these legal details and business terms that have to be worked out. But I would say that nothing is off the table. But at this point in time, any additional content that finds its way into the tool set would be highly curated. Artificer, Mystic, Revised Ranger. Oh, that's it. That's a word of the day. Word of the day. Word of the day. Ranger. I caught myself that time. I think it's because I read it. All right. So, Revised Ranger, word of the day. We are going to give away a legendary bundle. All right, as before, you have to type something in the channel. Something in the channel. So I'm going to let you do that. You can type how much you enjoyed the investigation last night. All right, so we are going to give that away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the winner is Zenith Dragoon. Congratulations, Zenith Dragoon. You have won a legendary bundle. Congrats. And we will move on here, and I'm going to try my best not to trip up too much more there. I didn't even remember that I had that written down there. All right, lucky you. All of these, Artificer, Mystic, the revised Person Who Ranges, all right, that we have shared this on our forums. I will definitely clarify here. We intend to incorporate those into D&D Beyond when their next iteration is released. So this will be part of the normal Unearthed Arcana and or published book cycle. We will integrate that when their next iteration is released, or maybe a better way to say that, if they become available for Adventures League play, for instance, we would definitely integrate at that point in time. So keep an eye on that. We have seen that with all of these game elements, this is not a secret. It is public knowledge. I've seen Mike talk about this on Reddit and everything else, that some of these elements are seeing dramatic rework. Some of the elements are taking a different stance. I know that Jeremy has talked about that the revised Person Who Ranges is not something that they want to introduce as 2 separate classes, which could really be confusing. And so they're looking at other ways to implement that actual class with possibly substitute class features and so on. Again, they will make those plans and determine how that shakes out in the end. But you will see the Artificer, Mystic, Revised Ranger. I did it again. Word of the day. I'm not going to scream because people might be very sensitive to that, but Pee-wee used to scream. All right, so word of the day, we're going to give out another legendary bundle. And now my management team is threatening me over my headphones here. No, I'm just joking. That's not happening. All right, so legendary bundle. Type in the chat. You guys got a bonus one today. Legendary bundle, and we are going to give that away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Winner is Michael the Count. All right, Michael the Count. That was my terrible Sesame Street impression. But yes, Michael the count. Congratulations. You have won a legendary bundle. All right, I'm going to move on to the next thing where I don't slip up again. Transfer and copy characters. Yes, that is definitely something that is in the works. We are hoping, we've got to see exactly which parts of the character sheet revamp are going to be in place ahead of time, but we will be able to copy and transfer those characters. If you're a dungeon master and you want to create a character that you pass off and hand off to a character in your campaign, you will be able to do that. It is absolutely planned functionality. Character details in campaigns. So there was a question about sharing more information about a character, because right now you see a name, you see their level information, you don't see their ability scores, you don't see the types of attacks they have. So all of that is information that we fully plan to share as part of the campaign management piece, that other players in that campaign can view your character. And we do also want to segregate certain information where if you are a super secret dramatic character that has a dark secret that you don't want any of the other player characters to know, that you are actually lawful evil and you are pretending to be lawful neutral. If you don't want them to know that, we're going to have some flags and toggles that will hide some of that descriptive information, and you can choose to just share the more mechanical information if that's what you'd like to do. So we'll have more details about that in the future, but it is something that we absolutely have planned. Adventurers League support. Log sheets. We really want to do something with this, and we are capable of doing something like this. One of the things that we have received from Wizards of the Coast is, just like any program, especially something like Adventurers League, we want to make sure as we start developing things to support it that we're not catching up to a lot of changes in it. And so there are some exciting plans for this year for Adventures League and beyond that we want to understand the full picture behind before we start developing a lot of things that could potentially, and I'm not going to use words like obsolete, but could potentially change based on what some of the outcome of those changes are. And so we fully intend to support this. We just want to go about it in the smartest way that we possibly can, working with Wizards of the Coast. So I am confident that we will see this become a thing in this 2018. All right, virtual tabletop and VTT exports. I will reiterate here that we have no current plans to create a virtual tabletop. We are trying to really fill in some other types of gaps in play, things like being able to access the content itself in a much quicker and easier way, and be able to manage your characters. As for exporting your character, for instance, to a VTT, this is still absolutely planned. We're trying to get all the stars to align, and for us to be able to have a time period that we can work with both Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds to actually make that happen. So it's a little difficult to get all parties kind of on the same page at every single time, but it is something that we're working on. Uh-oh, I think I unplugged. There we go. All right. Live stream unplugged. You add unplugged to things these days to make it sound cool. All right, so here we go. VTT exports, we definitely want to do it. It's a matter of when we can do it. Random name generation sources. I think I went through this last time. I saw another question pop up about this, but we do use fantasynamegenerators.com. Encourage you guys to, I think everybody who is watching this has probably used them in the past, but it is an excellent site, and I definitely encourage you to go use it. We use that in our character builder. We also have added all of the random names that were in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, so those are available there as well. Wild shape, companions, and familiars. So we definitely have, as part of the revamp, we are not only wanting to support wild shape, beast companions for the ranger, or familiars for sorcerers, wizards, arcane casters. We want to support all that, but we want to do it in a way that is going to be long-term. We want to make sure that we are looking at... Wait a minute. Somebody's pinging me about something. Oh, I said it again. I said it again. I really did. Did chat get that, or did someone else tell me? Wow. No, I did. I said Ranger Companions. All right. I guess we're going to have to give away another legendary bundle. I mean, I guess you guys, if you guys didn't catch it in chat, you should thank whoever just pinged me for letting me call that out. All right. We're going to do this again. Type, type, type. We're giving it away in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the winner is Gray Fox 09. Congratulations, Gray Fox 09. You have won a legendary bundle. Now let's get back to this, and I'm not going to say that word again. I'm just not going to do it. I've removed it and purged it from my mind. All right, Wild Shape, Companions, Familiars. We want to be able to cover not only these instances of class-specific functionality, we want to build a system that can support all of the different types of class-specific functionality. So we want to be able to have a section for a monk's key, for instance, and we want that to be able to display what that resource is. So in this instance, key, we want to see how much you have left. We want to see which abilities tie into that, which abilities you can spend that number on. So all of those things, we're taking a very comprehensive approach here where we can support not only druids and those who range and some of these arcane casters, but all of the different types of specialized information for all of these classes. But yes, this is part of what we're working on with the revamp. Now, having said that, if we have a really big part of the revamp and some of the real goodness that we're talking about wanting to get to everybody ready to go, we're not going to hold back releasing that while we wait on getting that system in place. I'm just telling you that it's part of what we're working on and that it is something that is coming sooner rather than later. Characters list organization and management. So this has been one that I've seen come up several times as well. We are definitely going to do this. We'll try to do things like allow you to organize characters into folders. We will, of course, let you sort those characters based on a variety of factors. So that is something that we're trying, again, to prioritize and figure out when we can squeeze it in. It's not that difficult for us to do, but we're working on a lot of things, and some of those things are very difficult. And so it is a matter of when we can prioritize, but it is absolutely a planned feature. I am hoping it has started to bubble up closer to the top, so I'm hoping we can get to that sooner rather than later as well. Previous Unearthed Arcana content. Got several questions about this, and it makes sense because it is confusing the way that this works. What I can clarify and confirm is that going forward, we will incorporate all the new Unearthed Arcana content in the Unearthed Arcana source, and that is where you will see the official playtest material that Wizards of the Coast is putting out on a regular basis. However, our homebrew systems are going to be flexible enough for this content that has come up previously. Eberron races, for instance, some of the other content, what was called the Seeker Warlock Patron. Those kinds of things, even though they haven't made it into any published sources, they could be abandoned, or they could just be shelved, or they could just have not quite made it there yet. Those elements you will be able to recreate privately for your own use using our homebrew system. So there are no options that you would not be able to incorporate. That really is a big part of the point of why we're allowing this custom homebrew content to be created. So you can definitely do that there. We will have ways that through the staff and the community that we will share some of that content publicly to help people find that quicker and easier. So all of that previous content, we will go through and see what we can help from a convenience standpoint, supply that and allow you to add that to your collection and use. It just won't be part of the actual Unearthed Arcana source. So again, I think that will be a little clearer as we move forward. It won't be too long now that Homebrew Races are available for the public, that you will start seeing some of this in action. You'll be able to use that homebrew content in your games, and hopefully it's going to be something that is convenient for all players to be able to use those other concepts. Custom languages, feats, proficiencies. So how do I add a custom language? That is definitely going to be taken care of in the revamp. Feats. A lot of people are saying Variant Human is broken because they get a feat at first level. I don't know where I'm at in that argument yet. Some days I think it's maybe a little too strong. Other days, it's okay. Feats are really, really cool, though. People love them. I understand why we've seen a lot of people start homebrewing that all characters get a feat at first level. I understand that. We are definitely going to support ad hoc feat awarding and being able to choose a feat outside of normal progression as part of the revamp. Also, with proficiencies, you will be able to add proficiency with, you're someone from the future that's traveled back into time, into the Forgotten Realms, and you are very proficient with computers. You can add a computer's proficiency if you want to. All of that will be covered in what we are doing with Revamp. Got a question about source-based icons. So many of you saw that we have introduced, when we're talking about Critical Role content or Unearthed Arcana content, we have little icons that really call that information out. That is for a variety of reasons, but the main reason is for people to know at a glance, just like with the Homebrew icon. So you see the little, we call that Homebrew blue. So the little Homebrew blue icon with the house in the middle of it, that is another call out to say, hey, this content is not part of the core D&D experience. It is very likely not legal for Adventurers League play, all of those things. So that's the reason that call out exists. And again, I'm seeing some folks want other types of icons for the rest of the types of content. I can tell you just from a practical level, that might be difficult for us to do, to come up with an icon that really matches the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, for instance. So it is something that we will continue to monitor feedback, and we'll see if that's something that can add value, and we'll incorporate it if we come to a decision that it does. But it's been added to the list for review. All right, Encounter Builder, combat tracking. Got another question about this. We've got a lot of new people joining us from Critical Role, and so a whole lot of questions that we've answered several times in the past. It's not anyone's fault. We love it that you're new. We want to welcome you, and so I'm going to answer it again here for everyone's benefit, that encounter building and combat tracking is absolutely a planned feature. That is something that I am very excited to get to in 2018. So this year it is definitely slated for something that we do. I would call it, after what's going on with character management, I would call it the next major thing that we are doing. So it and again, it is really major, especially the plans we have for this. But all of that stuff is going to be in place, starting with Encounter Builder, and then moving into Monster Builder as well, because we think that there's some exciting things we can do there. So all of that will happen, and then once we have character management in a good place, Monster and Encounter management in a good place, we'll join the two of those together into combat tracking, and it will be a utopia. So that's definitely the plan. That is a major part of the vision of what's going to happen with D&D Beyond in 2018 and beyond. All right, improved surfacing of locked options. This is a great question, and it's something that we've struggled with a few times, and we know one of the things that we will be doing, and this is probably something that will come just after the revamp, we'll start looking at something like this, is being able to surface all the options that are available in D&D Beyond that you might want to use with your character that you might not have unlocked because you haven't purchased it. We, of course, supply the systems reference document, SRD, and all the basic rules information, and then many other free supplements like the Player's Companion to Elemental Evil. All of that is available free on D&D Beyond. You can use any of those options, but some of the other options that are official content that we have to have a purchase to unlock, all of those things will be surfaced in the future. And it was kind of a situation in beta that this was something that we really encountered a whole lot. People were wondering where the forest gnomes were, and people were wondering where the chromatic orbs were. So it became almost a meme, I think, on our forums where people are asking about those things. And I think we hit a wave where the education that happened from that first wave of questions, it really did the job for the most part. But again, we're happy and excited. We're welcoming a lot of new members of the community, and we see that those challenges still remain. So there is something that we definitely have planned for the UI to spell this out much more clearly, and for this to be a better experience for people that are trying to come in. In the short term, we're going to start with a little more messaging around some of these elements. Even though it won't be the full-blown solution, some of the messaging we hope will help easing people, especially new players, into understanding how some of those options work. I got a question about some of the DDB Chrome extensions that have popped up out there. I have actually used at least 3 of these that I have seen pop up on the website. So the question was, have I used them? I have used them. And then the follow-up to that was, are those extensions shaping the way that anything that we have planned for the future of DDB? What I can say is that if I actually shared everything that was planned for DDB on our literal at this point 3-year minimum roadmap, possibly 5-year, so in other words, we have thousands of things that we have on our roadmap that we know are good things to do for the community, and we are doing what we can to really move down that list. And so to kind of answer that, these Chrome extensions are not doing anything that has not been on the list for us. The thing that these Chrome extensions are nice about, just like in a community like World of Warcraft and all the mods that came up as a result of that game releasing, was it helped us to see that, hey, these are things the community cares about, so it can absolutely help with prioritization. I've got 5 minutes left, so I got to hurry. Twitch stream integration. We are absolutely doing this, and it is probably going to be the thing that happens in between character sheet revamp and moving on to encounter building and monster building. We're definitely going to do this. Factions for characters. I think our thought process was you'd be able to add factions for your characters in the notes section, in the description section of the character sheet. If we want to support that more directly, I think that's a great idea. We can add it to the list. Are you all right? Did you really get knocked out playing D&D? That was another question. I'll skip that one for now because that's just a ridiculous, funny story. All right. What else we got from chat? Let's see. All right. Wow, we've got a lot today. Okay. A lot of that has been taken. Timeline on adding blood curses and crimson rite damage dice on the blood hunter page. I need to dig into that a little bit more. I don't know what that one means, actually. But if something is missing, then yes, we will absolutely get that updated. D&D Beyond, when you remove UA content, does it affect already created characters or just going forward? It is going to affect already created characters. However, it doesn't actually destroy anything on that character outside of whatever that option is. So I say that to really give you the idea that the disclaimer is that use this content at your own risk, understanding that there is a transition period at some point in the future for that content, either into published source or into something that is at least temporarily shelved. So all of that is something that you need to keep in mind when you're using these options. Another thing that you can keep in mind is that any of those options that can be created that way, again, can be replicated in our homebrew system. MJS October, D&D Beyond, will there be a DDB Dungeon Master screen, a way we can customize a page in DDB with just the charts we want handy? That is something that is definitely on that big list that I talked to you about. We would love to do something where you can drag and drop different elements that you need to bookmark in the site and drag it to a screen, and you can arrange that where you can use that during your play at the table. Definitely something that is planned. Pepper MD. When creating a homebrew subclass, will we be able to change the default spellcasting ability score? Answer to that is actually yes. That should actually be possible. So, I hope the developers aren't screaming at me right now, but I'm fairly certain that that is possible. I will try to double check and confirm. Feel free to ask that question on the forums, and we can confirm. Let's see. What else do we have? Any other questions from the chat? I'm missing things here. Oh, here we go. D&D Beyond from Loxardus. D&D Beyond. Can we make custom monsters like brain gerbils? Absolutely. Please make a brain gerbil. Let me see that. I will add it to my homebrew collection. All right. Anything else? I have Mr. Kenrick, Todd Kenrick, looking at that for me right now. Anything else? I think we might be out of time. Do we have time for one more? Anything else? Did I miss anything? Okay, here we go. Last question. Wolf03, D&D Beyond. Will the Warlock invocations for Xanathar's Guide to Everything be added to the Warlock class page after purchasing Xanathar's? That's definitely on the very short list. So the answer to that is yes. You should see that pretty soon, actually. We realize that that is a gap, and so we're fixing it. All right. I think that is all we have time for. There are programs after us that have to use the slot. Thank you all very much for joining today. Congratulations to all the Legendary Bundle winners. Thank you guys for being an incredible community. We are really excited where the adventure has taken us so far and look forward to the road ahead. Thanks.